had the byakugan. Now, this is a pretty good what if, because Boruto should have had the byakugan, not some stupid Joagon I could barely even pronounce. I will be doing a what if Naruto had the Joagon, and yeah, but that's coming for later. So let's get started. So we started off the what if with Boruto being born, blah 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 blah, and he's not full Hyuga, of course, because, well yeah, it's half and half. When jeez, I already have a viewer? Well, that is crazy. That's surprising. Where? Let's get on with it. So Boruto would basically have the byakugan, of course, but he wouldn't unlock it immediately because, well, that's too much of a plot twist. So let's get whatever on it. So one day when Boruto is about 10 years old, 9 years old, Naruto is at work and he promised that he'd be at dinner one day. So after like an hour of waiting for him, Boruto's like, "That liar! Why does he never come?" Hinata says, "Boruto, calm down. Your father is very busy. And he promised this time." And then slams his hands on the table, activating the byakugan, awakening his byakugan. Hinata's like, "Boruto, you have the byakugan?" The byakugan. She takes a picture of it, and then sends it, and then, well, actually she doesn't take a picture because I don't think Hinata has a phone. She says, "Boruto, I'm gonna go get your dad so we can see this." He says, "Ah, dang it! How is this fair?" He more or less says, "Hee hee, I got it before you." He says, Boruto just turns his head and says, "Huh." Boruto still hasn't awakened. She asked Naruto to come home quickly because it's important. He says, "Okay, Hinata, what is it?" He says, "Look at Boruto's eyes." He goes, "The byakugan? When the frick did you get that?" He says, "Right now. You got a problem with it?" I'm kidding. Boruto would never do that, because if Boruto did, then, well, Boruto would be dead. Okay, he wouldn't be dead. I'm just saying, like, Boruto would not be he would not be a happy camper. He'd not be a happy person. I'm just saying. Whatever. So, Boruto's life would go normally until he reaches the academy. He would know Shikadai still. He would say, blah blah blah. Now let's get on with the academy. So Boruto would just arrive on early because he wouldn't really care. He wouldn't really care about. Well, yeah. So once he awakened the byakugan, actually, Naruto and Hinata and Himawari would go to Hiyashi's house every single weekend. And Boruto would be actually pretty happy. He'd be like, "Alright, I get to see Grandpa. He's nice. He's freaking nice to me. He trains me. I'm happy." So Boruto would be trained by his Hiyashi, would be pretty good. He says, "Ha!" So when Boruto arrives, he says, when Shino says, "Boruto Uzumaki," he says, "Here." He says, "Wow, I expected him to pull off a stunt." He goes, "I don't know what happened to him. I guess all since Yano wakes in the byakugan, he stopped doing pranks." He says, "Naruto, what? He has the byakugan now?" He says, "Yeah, all Hyugas have it. I mean, he's not really full Hyuga, but I mean, he has it. I mean, Himawari has it." He goes, "Your little daughter has it. Wow. Now that is shocking." He says, I thought I told you that's why I was late." He says, whatever. He says, whatever. So basically, Naruto would be so basically the academy would go pretty normal. Boruto wouldn't get a suspension this time, so when he says, "Boruto Uzumaki has arrived," and basically they do all their training exercise until Boruto meets Iwabe. Iwabe is a complete jerk when he says, strong people should get away. You can get away with anything as long as you're strong." Boruto says, "Then why do you get away with stuff?" And and everyone in the class, except for most of the girls, go, "Oh! Oh!" And everyone goes and just starts going, "Oh!" right around Iwabe. And he goes, "Shut up!" And then he starts to beat everyone up in the class. Even going for Sarada and Mitsuki. But I think we all know how that works. Wait, I don't think Mitsuki was in the class then. Never mind. So basically, the fight versus Boruto and Evil Bay would go severely different. And that started off with Boruto saying, "Durr, durr, 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 durr." And Boruto would say, "Byakugan!" Ah! He'd be like, "What? The byakugan?" He says, "Uh-oh." And everyone in the class is like, "Byakugan?" And he says, he says, "Lock on." He says, "Lock on." And then he targets Iwabe, saying, 8 trigrams, air palm. Immediately hitting him, sending him flying. And he's like, "I can't use jutsus." He's like, "That's the power of the Hyuga." Saying, "Oh, frick, I am screwed." When Iwabe tries to go behind him, Boruto would just elbow him from behind, saying, "I can see every one of your movement." He says, "I can see every one of your movements. Don't even try it." And then Iwabe goes, Damn, you are the Hokage's shadow." Boruto says, and Iwabe feels something weird. He's in a dark void with Boruto in a position. He says, 8, he says, 2 palms, 4 palms, 6 palms, 8 palms, 10 palms, 12 palms, 40 palms, 32 palms, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Absolutely obliterating Iwabe. Then they head back to class. And that would be pretty normal. He'd be like, so Shino goes, "Oh, whatever." He says, "Where's Iwabe?" He says, "Nurse." He says, "Why?" And and everyone just says, "He got 8 trigrams, 64 palmed." "What?" He says, "Boruto! Principal's office, now!" And they actually lied. Iwabe's also in the principal's. He says, "Boruto, in." He says, and Naruto's there too. He said, "Boruto, I am disappointed." He said, "What? He said, "What the squeaky noise did I do?" Naruto says, "Hey, what?" And then he says, "I did nothing. All he did was tell me he said I was the Hokage's coach pet, so I had to rough him up." He said, "He called me the Hokage's coach pet, so I had to destroy him. Also, he challenged me. What was I supposed to do? Be a little baby and say, 'I'm the little one on the Hokage show'? Or fight the guy and wreck him?" And Naruto is speechless. He's like, "I got nothing to say." And Iruku's like, "Yeah, I got nothing either. You can go back to class." He says, "Iwabe, yeah, one day. You get detention for 1 day, for 2 hours." He says, "Oh, alright. Whatever about the stupid establishment. I don't care about this anymore." So basically, Boruto would absolutely wreck. He'd say, when Boruto gets home, Hinata says, "Did you get in trouble at school?" Boruto says, "Let me explain first." He says, you have 20 seconds to explain what you did in school." Boruto is like scared. He's like, alright, let me explain." He gets a calm expression and says, "Well, first things first. Some kid named Iwabe," he should backlash to, "said I was the Hokage's coach pet, and then challenged me. So, I 8 trigram, 64 palmed him, and put him in the nurse's office," and then he went to detention. He says, "Did you get in trouble?" He said, "Yeah, but I gave them such a good explanation that they couldn't think of anything." He's like, she goes, "Boruto, you can be so selfless." She says, "Well, that's me." And then she says, "Well, your father wasn't like this, I can tell you that much." He's like, good. I'm happy I'm not like him. He goes, well, whatever. See you tomorrow. Boruto walks to his room. Now, frick the rest of it. I'm skipping most of it until we reach Boruto Genin. Boruto becomes Genin. So the fight with Kakashi would go weirdly different. So when they'd all come, Boruto would say, byakugan! And Sarada would have her Sharingan, I think. Because, well, the Shin Uchiha arc, she wasn't a Genin. So I'm guessing that she does have it. So when Sarada activates her Sharingan and Boruto activates the byakugan, he says, they're all over there. When Konohamaru attacks Boruto, Boruto says, he throws a paralysis. He runs up to him and slams and punches Konohamaru with it, but he actually put a paralyzing seal on him. He says, "Ha! Yeah!" He's like, I can't move. And then he says to Konohamaru, "Hey, big bro, Konohamaru, this is for being." He says, "This is for holding me up for like an hour." 8 trigrams? He says, 8 trigrams? 64 palms! He's like, and absolutely bodying Konohamaru, saying, well, that's over. Now what? Then he goes, alright, let's go. Going, ah! Then they'd all rush. The next one they'd find is Anko. When Shikadai, Inojin, and Chocho are caught, Thing would arrive. Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki would arrive, and they'd say, guys! Ah! He says, Sarada, do it! He says, Katon, go gakyonodete! And she'd block the view, then she'd say, striking shadow snakes! Then Mitsuki would appear right behind her and say, wind style! Wind bullet! Air bullet! Shooting it at her, a giant air bullet would fly right towards her, hitting him from behind, and the fireball colliding, saying, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. So then he'd say, eat this! So then Boruto would say, 8 trigrams, 64 palms! Absolutely wrecking everyone, actually. And then he'd actually defeat one more person. But then he wouldn't actually defeat, he would actually just appear to be a snake clone. Mitsuki would get punched from behind, and then Boruto would say, ah, ah, gentle fists. Boruto would say, gentle fist. So they would finally finish and beat Anko. Now Mitsuki would say, I'll take care of Shino Sensei. So he would actually take care of him. He'd actually beat him. But not before something else happening. So, after that they go to fight Kakashi. Boruto would arrive and he'd say, I'm defeating you, Kakashi! Joagon! I mean, not Joey, he'd say, Byakugan! And then he'd say, ah! Going full power. Then rushing towards Kakashi saying, Wind style, Gale Palm! He's saying lightning style. Lightning Palm! Because Boruto's lightning elements are not wind, it's lightning. Then he'd jump up in the air saying, Rasengan! I'm kidding, he doesn't know Rasengan. He'd kick Kakashi in the back, and then go under and swipe the bells, actually swiping them. Boruto would pass, and so would everyone else, because they actually did work to help each other. And he'd be like, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. He'd be like, oh, I'm Mr. Meeseeks, Mr. Meeseeks. So he'd jump up in the air and say, La! So when they'd all become Genin, Boruto was actually saw as a tremendously strong shinobi. One day Boruto actually heard something about the Tenseigan. He walks over to his grandparents' place and asks Hanabi a question. He says, Hanabi, what is the Tenseigan? And she goes, I really don't want to do it. But The Tenseigan is where a user gets another person's byakugan. Gets another Hyuga user's byakugan. And then he's saying, has anyone in the Hyuga clan actually gotten it before? Like, he says, yes, Toneri Ototsuki stole my eyes. Boruto says, what? You got your eyes pulled out? She says, yes, I actually have. He says, wow, I feel bad. He says, is there any way I can unlock it without the less painful method? She said, yes, if you train so hard, I mean like, so hard onto a master Hyuga. But there is no more left. Unless you train under your grandpa, which you have to do for like about 5 years, and then you'll finally unlock it. Or, actually, I think it was 3 years. Yeah, it was 3 years. Okay, never mind, it was 1 year, I was kidding. He says, that is how long it'll take you to unlock the Tenseigan. And then I'll grant you invincibility power. Like, that will be insane, and you'll unlock something called Tenseigan Chakra Mode. He says, what's that? He says, the power of the Tenseigan will infuse with your chakra, and using a cloak. Do you know your dad's cloak? He says, yeah, that nine-tail thingy cloak? He says, yeah, that it would become like that, but blue and way more spread out. He'd be like, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop with the I'm Mr. Meeseeks. So Boruto would be like, oh, alright. And that, guys, is gonna be the end of part 1 of What If Boruto had the Jogan. I mean, not Jogan, if Boruto had the Byakugan.